Hey guys, Albert Apache, open source self-defense, fitness, and grappling. So, like I said before, I don't want to be one of those channels that just, when I do breakdowns of videos to give my input or my advice, um, where all I do is simply look at it from one dogmatic point of view and I'm always just tearing down videos. So I thought this was a really good video um, to point out where I'm fans of both of these channels, right? I really like a lot of the information that both of these channels put out, both Functor Tactical and I believe it's Gracie Breakdown is the channel that put out the video that's going to be referenced here. But this is a nice little montage and a nice little split. I just figured I'd comment on this one instead of reinventing the wheel and doing a voiceover that way. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start playing the video.
One of the techniques that I saw that drove me absolutely crazy, and I want to address it, and I don't normally do this, but I want to, was a grab from here. And I'm going to have Amber demonstrate what I saw.
Secure the arm. Here I make a strong base. Pull hard here, right? And then straight from here, I can go with the arm.
Okay, so first and foremost, it's one of those things. Again, like I said, I'm a fan of Functor Tactical. I really like a lot of the information they put out. However, that being said, I think you always have to keep in mind that, people are business people first, and they are trying to sell their product first, okay? And I thought that was a little bit of an unfair. If you watch just the Functor Tactical video, it's kind of an unfair assessment because he just shows that clip, or he just shows that takedown. He doesn't give the context in which the Gracie breakdown technique is shown. He doesn't talk about, well, why did they choose to use that technique, right? Because context matters. So hopefully it'll be addressed here in this video, but let's continue watching to see what they have to say about it.
Armbar is great all day long, no problem. Jiu-Jitsu, great all day long, no problem. This is dumb. This makes no sense in the real world.
The natural instinct is if someone's grabbing you by the hair trying to pull you somewhere, what's your natural instinct, right? It's to fight.
Right. Same.
So here is where, yes, context really does matter, right? Eve brings up a great point with Henner that they're going to grab a hold of your head and they're going to yank and they're going to pull you, and you're going to, if you try to strike with them, you're going to go with them, right? That's the context that she's framing, or that the Gracie University is framing this technique around, is that, you don't want to be pulled in the direction that they're pulling you. They're pulling you this direction. You don't want to go that direction with them. And if you try to strike at them because they are standing in that direction, you will travel in that direction, okay? So this is where context matters a lot of times when you're watching a lot of these breakdowns.
It's to fight and resist, but by resisting and fighting, I'm still going to go with him.
Yeah.
Because his grip is so strong.
Yeah, and it's pulling from so high.
Yes.
Right? The normal base that we teach is from here,
Right.
but you're able to resist and sit low and back because it's connected to your body.
Right.
But if I tie it up here and they're pulling from the top, even if you make base, it's gonna be very difficult. And if they're hitting you at the same time. So if you're gonna go no matter what, you want to go to the ground. Because once you're on the ground, you're much more difficult to transport, like a little kid, right, who just simply doesn't want to go to bed, and you're like trying to take them and they don't want to go, and they're super difficult because they're flailing and twisting and making their body all weird on the ground. That's what you want to do.
It's similar to this one in New York, where he took her from a public place and then brought her to an isolated place. So I'd rather land on the ground in a public place, make it messy, make it take extra long there, as opposed to him being able to transport me somewhere else.
So there we get the context, right? We get some context for what the idea was behind that particular armbar. Is you don't want to be taken somewhere else, and you don't want to be abducted, right? So that plays a big role in whether or not, what technique you're going to do. Also, the other problem I did have with the Functor breakdown is he did kind of do the same thing that I pointed out in one of the Martial Myths reviews, and that was where, in his own video, he talks a little bit about it, where he says, well, I could do this, and he kind of gives some resistance, and he does a counter and whatever to the armbar, basically flopping into the female's guard. So now he's on top, and then he wants to get up and he wants to strike, and that's fine. That's all good. That is a legitimate concern to have. Okay. However, when then he shows the techniques or the tactics that he would like you to use, which is turn, use your Krav Maga style, striking the blitz attack or whatever, he just turns around and he covers up and he runs away from her. When, as a matter of fact, if I have a hold of your head, the first thing I'm going to do is not continue to pull you if you start to hit me. What I'm going to do is probably stiff arm, right? I'm going to stiff arm, make distance, and then I'm going to control your head side to side, or I'm going to start to strike with my own hand. I'm not going to let go and cover up here, okay? That's not the natural reaction. So I kind of didn't like the fact that, he gave a realistic, behavior pattern when he wanted to critique the armbar, but then he gave a very training-based response when it came to the techniques that he thought were a better option. Okay, so I didn't really care for that. Now, that being said, again, context matters. He talks about somebody grabbing your head, and what if you're out in the open and there's friends, it's in a bar, it's on a street, it's on the concrete. Well, then definitely context matters. And then in which case the armbar does not make sense, because if they have friends and you're looking at, a gang rape type of situation, right? You have multiple attackers, multiple men in the scrum. The last thing you want to do is fall to the ground, okay? Now, that being said, I think that you want to play the numbers, right? And the numbers say that most sexual assaults are solo assaults, right? In other words, there's only one assailant. You want to play the numbers in the sense that, most assaults, most sexual assaults are the attacker is known to the victim, right? A lot of the assaults come from you trusting somebody, letting them into your house, you trusting somebody, maybe a boyfriend or somebody that you're out on a date, and going ahead and going into their house, or, a makeout session that then gets, that you want to stop, and then, the attacker wants to take it, to another level that you don't want to, and then they want to force themselves, and then they become aggressive about it, right? Those are the situations that the numbers say, right? That's what the statistics say are the most likely scenarios. So you want to play the numbers and have that technique in your back pocket. I also agree, though, with the functor tactical, that you also want to have that tactic of being able to strike somewhat, just enough to get that hair grab off of your head, right? Just enough to make them want to bring that hand off of the head and either defend themselves or even strike with you. Because I would rather them let go of my head, or even in this case, let's say I would prefer them to let go of my daughter's hair, right? My daughter's head, so that she can then escape and run away. And for them to try to hit her, than for them to control that head and just drag her wherever they want her to be, right? So there we go. I hope I was pretty fair in this assessment. I like to always be above board. So just so everyone knows, I've trained, Kaji Kimbo for almost 8 years, which is an eclectic style. It used to be a very hard, very street smart style. I feel like it's kind of lost some of its roots a little bit, but trained that for about 8 years. I've trained Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for about 5 years now. So I think I have a good idea when it comes to blitzing attacks versus grappling, and grappling versus blitzing attacks in a self-defense mode. Okay, so I think that really context really does matter. And if your biggest priorities, your most important priorities, are to survive and to escape, then context really factors into which set of techniques are going to be the most useful and most effective in that situation. All right, guys, remember, stay practical, be practical, be purposeful, get fit with a purpose, guys.